third time in Brazil. It's a very nice country, very nice people. And I have a very difficult task to follow up with Henry Chesro's talk. He has been here several times, and he is presenting in a way which you cannot follow. So I will not try to do that, but I will try to bring you a different story of open innovation. A story of open innovation which we are changing, which we are progressing, let us say, in a new book for next year, so together with 20 other authors. And some of these concepts, some of these insights, I will try to illustrate today with a number of very simple questions. So I will talk a little bit about the past, but much more about the present and the future of open innovation. And the first thing is, I want to show you that open innovation is not only for those companies that innovate. We have heard the word innovation a lot of times in the last half an hour, but I'm sure that even when you're not innovating, even when you're a company in services, even when you're an SME, which is way too small to do some innovation, open innovation will be your friend. Let's have a look. Traditionally, and that's probably also in what Henry's talks have been about, you have mainly technological driven, and it's mainly applicable to advanced large SME, multinational companies. Henry's talks are all started with Xerox. He has been there for a long time. He talks about IBM. I could talk about Philips. I could talk about Siemens and all the other companies. So let's forget about them. Let's also forget about the innovation funnel, because time after time we have been showing the funnel. The open innovation funnel was like the main tool to explain open innovation. So how external partners help to improve your internal new product development. That was central in what Henry has been saying before. How our technology can be monetized by licensing out or by spinning off our technology. These are themes that you know very well. This is the traditional open innovation stuff which we have been advocating the last 10 years. And you know these kind of funnels, right? We have been advocating that you still can use your internal technology base, that you can look at external technology bases to license, or that you can use it for licensing out, for spinning off your technology. You can use external technology bases. You can insource technology from, for instance, ventures and so on, and you even can acquire small companies. So this is something we know already for a very long time. I will not talk about it, and I will show that this graph, which we have been using so many times, may probably blind many companies about open innovation, because I think we can do much, much more than just those big guys that have been using the innovation funnel and that have been using open innovation to bring in new products or to monetize on existing technologies in the company that are used by other companies. So my question for you is, and let's be honest, how relevant is the innovation funnel for you? How relevant is open innovation, like I have been advocated in the past, relevant for your company, each of your company? And the big manufacturing companies may say, yes, hey, that's what I'm doing. We have open innovation managers, so that's okay for us. But many service companies here, and also in Europe, also in America, United States, they don't have that. And they should not, because I will show you that you can do it differently. So do you have a stage-gated open innovation new product development process? Probably most of you will say, in our company, no. And there is nothing wrong. So what I will try to do is to broaden the scope. Open innovation is possible when you're not related, which is not related to your new product development. If you're in, for instance, a service company, you have no technological expertise. But still, open innovation can be very relevant. You have if you're an SME, a very small SME, you might have insufficient technological expertise to go ahead with open innovation. And still, open innovation will be very important, as I will show. If you're a government agency, you may say, hey, this is for companies. I don't do R&D. Well, still, it is very important also for you. Because look at NASA. NASA is sourcing new technologies with all kinds of instruments that may help their mission to send people to Mars, whatever, as a space agency. They don't invent anything, but they source, and they do it very professionally nowadays. And they are a government agency. They are not a manufacturing company. So insourcing knowledge of others in an indirect way to an open business model will probably be much more important for a number of companies. But this is abstract talk. Let's go for the examples. I start with probably something we have never heard about, sky energy. And it's indeed what it is. It's about energy to fly. And it's KLM, the Dutch Royal Airlines company, who have been initiating that project. Now, KLM, you can imagine, it's an airline company. It's in services, right? Not in manufacturing. What this company has to do with innovation? Well, together with a number of partners, they have been starting up in 2009 Sky Energy. And what was the goal? The goal is to help create and accelerate the development of the market for sustainable jet fuel in a safe, sustainable, and affordable way. And also to avoid large price swings of petrol-based kerosene. Now, this company is just a consumer, just a customer of biofuel, potential customer of biofuel. And you see already, this company has nothing with R&D. It does not do any research and development. But it can benefit if others starting up the biofuel industry for the aviation. So there is a kind of benefit for these companies, for the airline companies, if others start to do some research and development. If others start that value chain in the biofuel industry, especially for the aviation industry. And so you have to start it up. You're an outsider, you're not in the research and development in biofuel, but still you can benefit from it. And you can initiate the initiative to go ahead. So we will use for Sky Energy this kind of funnel? No. We forget about it for the moment. You need something else. Sky Energy is a hub firm. It organizes, it set up a value chain, a new value chain in biofuel, right? And you see, you bring together a number of partners, partners which have never been connected before. The financial world, because this is a very costly infrastructure. You have to set up the biofuel value chain for this specific industry. You have to work together with the governmental agencies for all kinds of reasons, because there's a lot of regulations going on, standards that have to be set, prices that have to be set, and so on. So government is crucial. And of course, the airline industry, which are the potential customers here. Now, if you look at the role of KLM, because I started with KLM, who initiated everything, KLM is just a customer, only a potential customer. But in this area, it has been initiating this setup of a whole value chain organized by Sky Energy. So KLM, what is the value driver for KLM? KLM profits as a customer of a steady supply of sustainable and affordable biofuel. So even though that you're not involved in the research, not involved in the development, you can win from open innovation by the biofuel over there who was set up as a value chain. But there is also another thing. So open innovation here starts with Sky Energy, which is set up the aviation biofuel value chain and drives the acceleration of joint technological innovations between all these partners. So Sky Energy is a hub firm which is going to spur, because it has a lot of, it has a lot of customers, potential customers there. It will try to spur cooperation between the companies in the biofuel value chain to collaborate, to accelerate the R&D, and so to make sure that the biofuel industry starts up. So this is one example of a big company starting up a whole mechanism, a whole ecosystem, we can say, even though that it's a service company. Now you can tell me, okay, this is for big companies. I have a small company. What about small companies? Can we do the same? Yes, you can do the same. Let's have a look at the following example. Curana is a very small Belgian company. It has 25 employees. If you talk about a small company, this is a small company. But this company is nowadays considered as the Apple of the bicycle accessory industry. Not the bicycle industry, bicycle accessories industry. Let's have a look what this company makes. Well, this company is nowadays very profitable. It makes very beautiful designs for all kinds of accessories in the bicycle industry. It calls these products bicycle jewelries, as you see. So just because of the design which is so beautiful. By the way, this company was almost bankrupt in '99. So it has to save its ass. And it did. And it did it by open innovation. What could it do? It was an OEM. Did it have any technical competences? No. So how did it save its ass? Well, let's have a look. The old situation was that steel mudguards and fenders that was made by the company as an OEM. Belgium is a very small market, by the way, so it's like smaller than Sao Paulo, let's be honest. And it was a family-owned business. But then, very quickly, because of the mountain bike came in the 90s, we get all these imports of Taiwan from plastic mudguards, very cheap. And you had only 1 or 2 years' time to change the industry, otherwise you would be just bankrupt. So you had to differentiate here through innovation. How did this company work? I'm sorry. Well, the company started with design. This was the first, after 2 years, this was the first nicely designed mudguard. It took them 2 years to do that together with partners. Now have a look. It looks very sleek design, it looks nice, but it took them a long time. This is the final design. There is steel, or better, aluminum. There is extruded plastic. There is design. Well, what does this company had before? The competencies it had was just the knowledge of the market and steel bending. It had no competencies in plastic. It had no competencies in design. How do you make these kind of things? Well, you set up an ecosystem. That's what you do. Even though that you only have 20 employees, even though that you have almost no money, you set up these kind of things. I assume we can have the video for 5 minutes. I will give you a sign when to stop the video. Please go ahead. This is the CEO talking, and he will tell you how he changed his company.
Probably a good move on your seagull. I got hit with.
Curana is eigenlijk geëvolueerd van een productiegedreven bedrijf naar een productgedreven bedrijf. We zijn ook verder gaan denken dan weer een nieuw onderdeel voor een fiets, een nieuw spadbord, een nieuw bagage. Ideeën gaan lanceren, is het gevaar groot dat ook dingen snel gekopieerd of nagevolgd worden. En daarom dat we heel veel belang hechten en ook heel veel geld investeren in intellectuele eigendom. Wat wij doen is proactief gaan wij ideeën gaan ontwikkelen. Die ideeën werken wij uit tot op een bepaald niveau en gaan die dan gaan aanbieden aan de markt. Op het moment dat de markt inpikt op onze ideeën, dan ben je enige aanbieder. En we zitten niet echt in een prijsconcurrentie te werken. En dat onderscheidt ons heel erg van de rest van de markt. Door proactief en heel eigenzinnig producten te blijven aanbieden aan de markt, zijn we als het ware voor een groot deel onmisbaar geworden voor onze klanten. Die zijn de Europese fietsfabrikanten zoals Batavus en Sparta, Cannondale, Koga-Miata. Dus eigenlijk alle grote brands behoren inmiddels tot onze klantenkring. En we krijgen ook steeds meer vraag van hun uit om ook niet meer anoniem een product op hun fiets te zetten, maar er ons merk ook op aan te brengen, omdat ze de meerwaarde ook beginnen te voelen van er staat een Curana-product op onze fiets. Dus het label By Curana begint op zich ook al een merkextensie te worden. Waar wij naar streven is dat de merken ook een eigen identiteit kunnen krijgen, door ook totaal andere concepten aan te bieden. De fietsindustrie moet beginnen beseffen dat lifestyle heel belangrijk is om zijn producten verkocht te krijgen, om ook uit die prijsspiraal te geraken. En daar willen wij een eerste aan.
Okay. That's okay, it's fine. I will stop here. So you see, this, well, we have an abrupt end, but nevertheless, it was short, it was close to what I wanted to show you. This is a small company, right? Was almost bankrupt. Nowadays, they're doing very fine. What did you see is basically a company who transformed itself several times, and I'm going to try to explain it a little bit to show how you can do that. By the way, this is low-tech, right? This is a low-tech company. This is about bikes. We are not talking about semiconductors. We are not talking about biotech. We are not talking about pharmaceuticals. You can make money on low-tech. We are famous for our beers, but you don't know it because we have no strategy to internationalize our beers. You know Belgian chocolates because a few companies did the right thing. Belgian beer is even more famous, but we don't sell it yet in the right way across the world. The first guy who is smart enough to bring the beers at $20 in Japan, China, and the United States, that's going to be a famous value-added strategy for that industry. So even when you have sugar here as export or oil as export, think about how you can add value because these are your assets. You can have sugar, maybe not at a particular price, but at 5 times that price if you do something with the sugar. So that's something I want to give you with me. Let's come back to the example. Curana. What you basically have to do here in changing the B-light, so in bringing in the B-light, that new technology, is combining internal and external innovation. Internal, you always have to bring something to the table. If you cannot bring anything to the table, you have no partners whatsoever. So what you bring to the table is market knowledge because you know the customers, and steel. You know something about steel bending, you know something about these mud guards. But you have nothing about plastic. So you need a polymer extruder. And you need, let's say, all this knowledge around polymer extrusion. So you need all these knowledge centers. And you need the small makers, material suppliers, and you need the design company because you have no idea what the design is. So you basically set up an ecosystem, small ecosystem of players who wants to take the risk with you. Because it's not about a transaction. It's not about me paying you for doing something for me. No, you take jointly risk, right? But there's a very important thing here too. Larger companies, and here in this case, larger companies are the customers. Here, the bicycle manufacturers, they took an enormous responsibility because they promised the company to have an exclusive deal if they could make the B-light in time by a particular, let's say, point in time. So if they were ready with the production in time, then the big companies, 2 big companies, would exclusively license or exclusively purchase that new B-light in an enormous quantity. So the commercial risk is taken by the big companies. Small companies cannot work for 2 or 3 years on a very radical innovation if the commercial risk is not taken by other companies. They will never do that. So large guys really can help small companies in taking the risk that you really need to take. And you see the results are enormous. And I have to wipe away, let's say, the figures on the Y scale, because on the Y axis, because of tax reasons. But this is a privately owned company, by the way. And you see this, just by introducing the B-Light, the company profits and the company sales went sky high. Company is now 8 times larger in revenues. They don't want to tell me in times of profits, but 8 times larger than 10 years ago. This is enormous growth, right? But there is more. Like the guy told you, the company is moving several times and is changing its strategy. And I hope we can learn something this evening or this afternoon from effectuation, and you will see it's a step-by-step process here. It was an OEM. So what is an OEM? Basically, you make something for a customer on the specs of the customer. What is your added value? 0. You take the price, that's it. But here, because of the B-Light, you had already like an ODM, an original design manufacturer, which is designing something for a specific customer, and you can set the price this time. It's design-driven strategy, and you add some value. That was in 2002, 2003. And I can tell you, if the company didn't change, many competitors would go after them and do the same. So they changed again. And they did a very strange thing. Instead of waiting for the customers, they moved ahead of the customers. Now, what we learned in marketing is listen to your customers. These guys say, wait a minute. We know much better than the customers what design is, because in 5 years, 6 years' time, they had that much knowledge about design that they really wanted to create very crazy ideas, very avant-gardistic ideas. And they did. They listened to the customers in the 3rd phase of 4 phases, so they got feedback, but they didn't wait until the customer was asking for a new product. And that made them very famous in the sense that they got a lot of awards, innovation awards, design awards, and they got a lot of visibility. And if you have visibility, what you do? Well, you change again. You make your product a brand, because they know you, they know Curana. So you become a brand, and then in 2008, they had a branding strategy. And every step, you see profitability going up and up and up. And this is really how open innovation, because nowadays they have like 30 partners in the network. You see that they are really moving on. And it's a very nice example how small companies can bootstrap from their bad situation. So what is going on in Curana? Curana is producing new products, and is also manufacturing them. But it has set up a whole ecosystem. Polymer extruders, bicycle manufacturers as client design offices, material suppliers, and technical centers. And what is Curana doing? Well, it's the spider in the web. It knows better than anybody else what each of these partners can do. And so it's a cyclical market, and this company, just by bringing together the right partners in the right time, can come with new designs, much more radical, with much more new materials, much faster than anybody else, because it can activate that network in a way that nobody else can. So the innovation is in the network. The innovation is not in the company. The innovation is not in Curana, or not in its partners. It's the way you combine things. It's a completely new way of thinking. And it takes a new way of managing. That's maybe the most difficult part. So let's move on, because otherwise I probably will not have enough time. You might think that this business model works every time because it looks so beautiful. Well, I can tell you, Magic IQ, Magic is just about, let me show you if I can find it. Here you see like 4 magnets. And these magnets are